If you are watching this video right now, understand this clearly. You are not here by accident. Only a few are meant to hear this message, and you are one of the special ones. God has been watching every tear, every sacrifice, every silent prayer you never shared with anyone. Your life is about to change. I'm not talking about a small improvement. I'm talking about a beautiful shift, a God-orchestrated turn so powerful that when people see what's happening in your life, it will look like a movie. What once felt delayed is about to happen suddenly. What felt impossible is about to unfold effortlessly. Before we continue, like this video and subscribe to this channel. Help us reach 10,000 subscribers so this message can reach every soul God is preparing for elevation. And in the comments, write 99 as a declaration that you believe the blessing, the shift, and the favor are already in motion. Stay with me, because God is about to surprise you in ways you never imagined, and the next chapter of your life is going to leave everyone speechless. Friend, your next chapter will not look like your last. You may have walked through loss, rejection, betrayal, even failure, but God says, watch what I do next. He's about to bring people into your life who speak your destiny, not your history. He's opening doors you didn't even knock on, and He's about to bless you in such a way, even you will say, God, this is too good to be true. But it will be true. You'll know it wasn't luck. You'll know it wasn't connections. You'll know it was God, because only He could do it like that. Only He could turn your tears into testimony. Only He could take your wilderness and turn it into a wonderland. Only He could raise you from rejection to recognition. You see, this isn't just about a blessing. It's about the glory of God shining through your life. People will look at you and say, there's no way that could have happened unless God did it. You're not going to just talk about miracles. You're going to live in one. Your whole life will become a witness. So walk in faith. Wake up expecting. Don't let the past limit your future. Don't let the delay convince you that God has changed His mind. He's still the author. He's still writing. And your best scene is still ahead. God is about to make you so blessed, so elevated, so healed, so restored, it'll look like a movie. And you won't just be the audience. You'll be the star of the testimony. Sometimes we look around and think, God, this can't be what you promised me. The doors are closed. The people we counted on walked away. The prayers seem unanswered. And if we're honest, we start wondering if maybe we misunderstood what God said. But what if I told you that the very fact that your current reality doesn't match the promise is the strongest sign that God is still working behind the scenes? What you see now is not the full picture. What you're walking through may feel like pain, confusion, or even defeat, but what God is walking you into is victory, purpose, overflow, and favor. You might be standing in a storm, but God has already prepared your rainbow. You might be sitting in silence, but God has already written your next song. You have to remember, God doesn't operate like we do. He doesn't show us everything at once, because faith needs space to breathe. He allows us to walk through things that don't make sense, because He's building something greater behind the scenes. The disappointment you're feeling, the delay you're facing, the tears you've cried, they're all part of a much bigger story. You're not buried. You're planted, and something is growing even if you can't see it yet. It's easy to get discouraged when life doesn't match the promise. It's easy to question God's timing when you feel forgotten. But let me speak this over you. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because you're walking through confusion doesn't mean God has left you there. You may feel like you're stuck in a desert, but that doesn't change the fact that there's a promised land ahead. The wilderness doesn't cancel the promise, it prepares you for it. Joseph was given a dream of greatness, of being lifted up, of being used by God in an incredible way. But the path to that dream didn't look anything like success. He was betrayed, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and falsely accused. If you looked at Joseph's life in the middle of the journey, you'd never guess the ending. You'd never believe the dream. Because what he was walking through didn't match what God was walking him into. But just because his circumstances didn't reflect the promise didn't mean God had changed His mind. The delay was not the denial. The process was not punishment. It was positioning. And the same is true for you. God didn't bring you this far to leave you in the hallway. He didn't whisper those promises to your spirit only to disappoint you. If the season you're in doesn't make sense, it's because something greater is being prepared. You're not forgotten. You're being formed. God is not finished. Maybe right now you're walking through a season of loneliness. The people you love the most have gone silent. The support system you thought would be there forever seems shaky. Don't mistake absence for abandonment. God sometimes removes people not to hurt you, but to protect the purity of the next season. If He's isolating you, it's because He's trying to speak to you directly. Sometimes we can't hear the voice of God clearly until everything else goes quiet. Or maybe you're walking through financial difficulty, wondering how you'll make it through the month. You've been faithful, you've prayed, and yet the breakthrough hasn't come. Can I tell you, God is still the provider, and He doesn't operate by the economy's terms. The delay you're facing might be the exact setup needed for a miracle that brings Him the most glory. It's not over. Help is coming. Provision is coming. It won't always look like this. You may be walking through a season of waiting on healing, waiting on a spouse, waiting on purpose. Waiting is one of the hardest parts of faith, but it's also one of the most holy, because in the waiting, God does some of His most powerful work. He strengthens you. He reveals your identity. He peels back the layers of fear, doubt, and insecurity so that when the blessing arrives, you'll be ready to carry it with humility and strength. What you're walking through is not permanent. It's a passageway, not a prison. It's a tunnel, not a tomb. And when you come out the other side, you're not just going to come out barely making it. You're going to come out stronger, wiser, more anointed, and more aligned with your destiny. When you walk with God, you have to remember He works in patterns, not just moments. He's weaving everything together, your tears, your battles, your confusion, your praise, into something beautiful. And when you finally arrive at what He's been preparing you for, you'll look back and understand why the journey had to be the way it was. The hurt will make sense. The silence will be explained. The delay will look like precision. Because what God is walking you into is going to make up for everything you walk through. In fact, it'll exceed it. So don't give up because your surroundings don't match the promise. Don't lose hope, because your current chapter looks nothing like the dream God gave you. Stay faithful, stay planted, keep walking, because what you're walking through doesn't match what God is walking you into. And that's the evidence that something greater is on the way. It's easy to get discouraged when things don't happen according to our timetable. We pray, we believe, we stand in faith, and still the answer seems delayed. Doors remain closed. Opportunities don't show up. The healing hasn't come. The relationship hasn't been restored. And in those quiet moments of waiting, the enemy whispers, maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe God changed His mind. Maybe the promise was never for you. But let me remind you today, delay does not mean denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not on the way. God is not ignoring you. He's not withholding just to test you. He's preparing something that needs more time, more alignment, more perfection than you realize. Sometimes the delay is not about you missing it. It's about heaven orchestrating it. God is working behind the scenes, moving pieces into place, arranging people, shifting atmospheres, and lining up divine appointments. You may not see it, but something sacred is happening in the background. If God gave you the blessing too soon, it wouldn't be ready, or you wouldn't be ready. The unveiling of His promise isn't just about timing, it's about preparation. You're not just waiting on the promise is also waiting on the version of you that's healed, matured, humbled, and equipped to carry it. Think about the story of David. He was anointed to be king as a teenager, but he didn't sit on the throne the next day. In fact, he went back to tending sheep. Then he was sent to the battlefield, not as a warrior, but to deliver lunch. Then he spent years being chased by Saul, hiding in caves, running for his life. It didn't look like the path of a king, but every delay was a divine setup. every detour, every disappointment, every heartbreak. It was all shaping him for the throne God had already reserved. What if David had assumed the delay was a denial? What if he had given up during the cave season? What if he had looked at his current struggle and concluded the anointing was a mistake? He would have missed the glorious unveiling that came right on time. And the same is true for you. You see, God often allows delays to deepen our dependence. When things come easy, we might take the credit. But when we've waited, when we've prayed through tears, when we've stayed faithful with nothing but a promise in our hands, when the blessing finally arrives, we know it was God. That kind of unveiling isn't just a moment, it becomes a testimony. Maybe you've been praying for a dream to come to life. Maybe you've been asking God to break a generational curse, to open a specific door, to restore what was broken. And still, nothing seems to be shifting. Let me tell you, don't confuse silence with absence. Heaven hasn't forgotten you. In fact, a silence might mean your name is being whispered in rooms you haven't entered yet. It might mean angels are already dispatched on your behalf. It might mean the preparation is almost finished. God is not a God of random. He's strategic. He's precise. He's a master of perfect timing. And when He decides to unveil what He's been preparing, it will be glorious. It will be bigger than you imagined, better than you expected, and more beautiful than anything you could have written for yourself. Sometimes the delay protects us from walking into something prematurely. A relationship you thought was the one may have ended, but that closed door saved you from years of heartbreak. A job opportunity may have slipped through your fingers, but that delay positioned you for something that matches your purpose, not just your paycheck. What you saw as rejection was actually redirection. Even in your personal growth, the delay has not been wasted. You've learned how to pray deeper. You've learned to trust God when the path isn't clear. You've developed wisdom that can't be rushed. And whether you realize it or not, you've become stronger, more resilient, and more rooted in faith. That's not a detour, it's development. Delay is often where God does His most transformational work. It's in the waiting that your character is refined. It's in the pause that your identity is clarified. It's in the stillness that you realize what matters most. God is in OT punishing you with delay. He's preparing you for something that needs time to mature, time to unfold, and time to align with His perfect will. Don't quit 5 minutes before the breakthrough. Don't let discouragement lie to you. Don't let comparison convince you that you're behind. You're not late. You're being launched. You're not overlooked. You're being orchestrated. When God finally pulls back the curtain, you'll see that every no, every wait, every unanswered prayer had a reason. Every tear watered the ground where your promise is about to bloom. And when it does happen, when the doors fly open, when the healing comes, when the favor shows up, when the breakthrough breaks through, it'll be so glorious, so divine that only God could get the credit. So stand strong in the delay. Stay faithful in the silence. Keep praising even when the promise feels far off. Because delay is not denial. It's the divine setup for a moment that will shift everything. The unveiling is coming, and when it arrives, it will be worth every second of the wait. Wait, feel like life has passed you by, like everyone else is being chosen, celebrated, lifted up, and you've been left in the shadows. You've prayed, you've believed, you've held on when it would have been easier to walk away, but still, nothing seems to be changing. The silence can be deafening. The waiting can be heavy. You start to wonder if heaven has gone quiet, if God has moved on, if somehow you've been overlooked. But let me assure you today, you are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not on the sidelines. You are being featured in a divine story that is still unfolding. You see, when God chooses to elevate someone, He often does it differently than we expect. He doesn't rush it. He doesn't promote you before you're ready. Instead, He takes His time. He hides you. He protects you. He refines you. And that process can feel like you've been left behind, but really you've been held close. Sometimes being hidden is a gift in disguise. It's not rejection, it's refinement. It's God keeping you in a place where He can shape you without the pressure of being seen too soon. Because what He's about to do in your life requires strength. It requires maturity. It requires character. And if you stepped into the spotlight too early, it could crush you. So He pulls you back, not to punish you, but to prepare you, not to hide you, but to build you. Think about a stage production. The spotlight doesn't hit the actor until the scene is set, the timing is right, and everything is ready. Until then, the actor is waiting in the wings, out of sight. Not because they aren't important, but because their moment hasn't come yet. And when it does, everything shifts. That's what's happening in your life right now. You're in the wings. You're being held back on purpose, not by mistake. God has a specific time for your scene, and when that moment arrives, it will be undeniable. The light will find you. The doors will open. The platform will be prepared. And when it happens, you won't have to force it. You won't have to strive or chase it down. The moment will meet you. There's a passage in Scripture where God tells the prophet Samuel to anoint the next king of Israel. He goes to Jesse's house, and Jesse brings out all his sons. Strong, tall, impressive-looking young men, one after the other. Samuel says, surely this must be the one, but God keeps saying no. Finally, Samuel asks, are these all your sons? And Jesse says, well, there's one more, the youngest, but he's out in the field taking care of sheep. David wasn't even invited to the ceremony. His own father didn't think he was king material, but God saw him, and Samuel said, go get him. We won't sit down until he arrives. That's what God is saying about you. Others may have overlooked you. People may have left you out. You may feel like you're in the background while everyone else is moving forward. But God has His eyes on you. And when it's your time, heaven won't sit down until you step into what's yours. The oil didn't flow until David arrived, because it was reserved for him. What God has for you is reserved for you. No one can take it. No one can steal it. No one can cancel it. And let me tell you something else. Being featured doesn't always mean being famous. It means being faithful and letting God elevate you in the way He sees fit. Sometimes He features you in your family by making you the cycle breaker, the one who prays, the one who forgives, the one who rises. Sometimes He features you in the workplace, giving you favor where others were overlooked. Sometimes He features you in your own healing, bringing you through something so painful, so dark, and then using your story as light for others. You might not have the crowd clapping yet, but that doesn't mean heaven isn't watching. You might not be on the stage, but that doesn't mean your assignment is small. Every act of obedience, every moment you chose to believe, every time you stayed quiet when you could have retaliated, it all matters. It's all being woven into the testimony God is writing through you. And when your moment comes, it won't look like anybody else's. It will be uniquely yours, custom designed by the Creator. You'll wonder where you came from, how you got so blessed, how everything turned around so fast. But they didn't see the private seasons. They didn't see the nights you cried, the days you almost quit, the prayers you whispered in the dark. They didn't see the spiritual battles you fought when no one was watching. But God saw it all. He recorded every tear. He heard every prayer. He stood with you in the fire. And now He's bringing you out, not just to restore you, but to display His glory through you. Because your life is not just a life, it's a message. It's a billboard of grace. It's a spotlight on God's faithfulness. So don't let the silence make you think you're forgotten. Don't let the waiting convince you you've been passed over. God has not overlooked you. He has reserved you. You are not disqualified. You are not invisible. You are not behind. You are being featured at the exact time, in the exact place, and in the exact way God has planned. And when the light hits your life, it's not going to be small. It's going to be so powerful, so beautiful, so undeniable that all anyone will be able to say is, only God could have done that. It doesn't matter where you started. It doesn't matter what was said about you, what was done to you, or what you did in your past. When the favor of God touches your life, everything changes. His favor is not limited by your family background, your education, your mistakes, or how long you've struggled. God's favor has the power to key a broken, messy, overlooked life and turn it into something beautiful, something purposeful, something that blesses others. He doesn't just restore what you lost. He rewrites the script entirely. Maybe life hasn't turned out the way you hoped. You had dreams that were crushed, relationships that broke your heart, opportunities that slipped through your hands. Maybe people counted you out. Maybe you've even counted yourself out. But God never did. He doesn't define you by your failures. He defines you by your faith. He doesn't look at the chapter you're in right now and say, that's the end. No, He looks at your life and sees the whole story, and He knows how to take what the enemy meant for evil and use it for good. When God's favor enters your life, it begins to shift everything. Doors that were closed suddenly open. Things you couldn't make happen on your own begin to fall into place. People who ignored you suddenly take notice. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's the hand of God writing a new ending to your story. One filled with blessing, joy, healing, and victory. But here's the truth. Many times the favor of God shows up in the least likely places. In a prison cell, in a pit, in a wilderness, in a hospital room, in the middle of heartbreak. Because God loves to take the forgotten, the overlooked, the disqualified, and put His favor on them to show the world what He can do. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, thrown into prison for something he didn't do. If anyone had the right to give up, it was Joseph. His life didn't look anything like the dreams God had given him. But through it all, the favor of God never left him. Even in the prison, Joseph was favored. And in one moment, God brought him from the prison to the palace. He became second in command in Egypt. Not because he fought his way up, not because he knew the right people, but because God's favor rewrote the story. And that same favor is available to you. You might feel stuck. You might feel like too much time has passed, but God is not limited by time. He's not checking your resume. He's not consulting your critics. His favor overrides every voice that said you couldn't make it. His favor cancels the lies that told you you'd never rise. His favor breaks generational patterns, heals what's been hurting, and builds what was broken down. When God favors you, He'll use your pain as part of your platform. He'll take your story and make it a testimony. People who once pitied you will come back and say, only God could have done that. That's what the favor of God does. It leaves no doubt that it was Him. You may not feel qualified. You may not feel chosen. But favor doesn't pick the perfect. It picks the willing. God uses people who say, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you. People who show up in the quiet, who stay faithful when it hurts, who don't let disappointment drive them away. Favor falls on obedience. It follows those who stay in PS. Even when they can't see progress. Maybe you've been praying for years and it seems like nothing's changing. Maybe you've been walking through a dark season and you're wondering if God even sees you. Let me remind you, He sees every tear. He hears every prayer. And the story isn't over. His favor is not only coming, it's already in motion. What's ahead of you is better than what's behind you. You're going to walk into rooms you weren't supposed to enter. You're going to receive blessings you didn't have to chase. You're going to carry peace that makes no sense. That's what happens when God rewrites the story. Favor doesn't mean life will be easy. It doesn't mean you won't face battles, but it does mean you won't face them alone. It means victory is promised, even when the process is painful. It means God will use every setback as a setup. It means He will take the lowest moments of your life and turn them into the highest testimonies. Don't let your current chapter fool you. Just because the plot is messy doesn't mean the ending won't be beautiful. You serve a God who finishes what He starts, and He finishes it with grace, with power, and with favor. The same pen that wrote the beginning of your story is still in His hands. And when God holds the pen, no mistake, no detour, no attack from the enemy can change the ending. Your story is not over. In fact, the best part hasn't even been told yet. God is getting ready to release favor that will shift the narrative. He is going to show you why the wait was necessary, why the delay was divine, why the pain had a purpose. He's going to connect the dots, answer the questions, and bring beauty from the ashes. You don't need everyone to approve of you. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need to walk in the quiet confidence that God's favor is on your life. And when He decides to move, nothing can stop it. So lift your head, wipe your tears, stand in faith. The author of your life is not done writing, and His favor is about to turn the page. When He does, it won't just change your life, it'll rewrite the whole story. You may have walked through pain, disappointment, betrayal, and seasons that left you wondering if things will ever get better. You may be carrying the weight of memories that still sting, words that wounded, and doors that closed without warning. But I want to tell you today, with every ounce of faith in me, what's coming is not going to resemble what you've been through. The chapter ahead will be so full of healing, favor, and fresh beginnings that it'll feel like a different story entirely. God has a way of closing chapters, not to punish you, but to prepare you. What felt like the end was actually just a pause between pages. You might have cried in the last chapter, but you're going to dance in the next one. You might have walked alone before, but you're about to be surrounded by the right people. You may have struggled financially, emotionally, even spiritually, ally. But what God is getting ready to write next is going to redeem every hardship you've endured. One of the biggest lies the enemy tells you is that because things have been hard, they'll always be hard. That because you were rejected once, you'll always be overlooked. That because you failed in one season, success isn't possible in the next. But the truth is, God doesn't define you by what happened to you. He defines you by what He's placed in you. And what He's placed in you is purpose, resilience, destiny, and grace. And now He's about to breathe life into it. Maybe your last chapter was full of delay. You waited for years for things to change. You prayed and got silence. You planted but didn't see a harvest. Let me remind you, delay is not denial. The wait was not wasted. God has been developing you in ways you couldn't see. He's been pruning what needed to go, strengthening what needed to grow, and preparing what needed to show. The next chapter is not going to be slow and stagnant. It's going to be full of movement, growth, and divine acceleration. You don't have to keep rereading the old chapters out of fear that the best part of your story already happened. The God you serve is the author of new beginnings. He's not out of ideas. He's not running low on miracles. Just because your last chapter was filled with tears doesn't mean your next won't overflow with joy. Just because you've been hidden doesn't mean you've been forgotten. Sometimes God keeps you out of sight because the unveiling will be so powerful, so undeniable that everyone will know it was Him who brought you through. Think about Ruth. Her last chapter before breakthrough was full of loss. She buried her husband. She left her homeland. She followed her mother-in-law with no promise of provision. But in the very place where she thought life was ending, God was setting the stage for a brand new story. Ruth didn't just find favor. She stepped into destiny. She became part of the lineage of Christ. Her next chapter didn't look anything like her last. And that's the kind of transformation God is about to release in your life. You may be tired. You may feel like nothing's changing, but the shift is closer than you think. God often moves suddenly. One moment, everything feels the same. The next, doors start opening, answers start coming, and peace begins replacing pressure. That's how God works. He's not pacing the floor in heaven trying to figure out your situation. He already has the solution. He already knows how He's going to turn it around. He already has the next scene written, and it's better than you imagined. Some people from your past chapter won't go with you into the next, and that's okay. Don't force what God has released. Don't mourn people He removed. The next chapter requires you to travel lighter. No bitterness, no resentment, no baggage. Let God write it fresh. Let Him bring in new relationships, new opportunities, new strength. You don't have to fear what's ahead. And the one writing it is for you. And when you step into what God is preparing, it will be clear why things had to happen the way they did. You'll understand why the door didn't open, why the friendship faded, why the plan had to fall apart. You'll see that God wasn't withholding. He was preserving. He wasn't punishing, He was positioning. Every detour, every delay, every disappointment was preparing you for the breakthrough you're about to walk into. And don't be surprised when it happens quickly. Don't be shocked when the blessing outweighs the battle. That's how God shows up, big, bold, and undeniable. When He shifts the season, He doesn't just change one thing, He changes everything. Your environment, your mindset, your circle, your opportunities. He rewrites the whole script, and people who once pitied you will have to watch God elevate you. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove His faithfulness right. So hold on. Don't let your current situation convince you that this is all there is. Don't settle for survival when God has called you to thrive. Don't assume the rest of your life has to look like what you've been through. God is not done with you. He's not even close. The next chapter is going to reveal why you had to fight so hard, wait so long, and keep going when nothing made sense. There's favor waiting in the next chapter. There's peace that surpasses understanding. There's restoration for everything you lost and joy for every tear you cried. It's not going to look like your last season. It's going to be better, brighter, deeper, sweeter. God is not recycling your pain. He's replacing it. And what's ahead is worth everything you walk through to get there. Your next chapter will not look like your last. Get ready. God's about to turn the page. There are some blessings in life that are so big, so precise, so perfectly timed that you can't explain them with logic. You can't take credit for them. You can't chalk them up to luck, connections, or coincidence. All you can say is, that was God. It's the kind of breakthrough that silences the doubts, shuts the mouths of critics, and leaves even you in awe. The kind where you look around and realize, I didn't earn this. I couldn't have planned this, and I never would have expected this. God did it. You may be in a season where things feel uncertain. Maybe you've been trying your best, staying faithful, doing all you know to do, but the results haven't come yet. You feel tired. You feel hidden. You feel like nothing is shifting. But I want to remind you today, God doesn't always move in the ways we expect, but He always moves in the way that brings Him the most glory. And when He shows up, it won't be small. It'll be so undeniable, so evident, that even the doubters will have to say, that had to be God. Sometimes God lets things get to the point where only He can fix them. He'll allow the door to shut, the plan to fall through, the option to disappear, not to punish you, but to remove all doubt. Because if you could make it happen, you might think it was your strategy. If someone else could have opened the door, you might have given them the credit. But when every resource is gone, when the deadline is passed, when no one can help and nothing makes sense, that's when God steps in. And when He does, you'll know it, because it won't just be a solution, it'll be a miracle. The kind of miracle that brings restoration where there was ruin. That brings peace in the middle of chaos. That turns a dead end into a highway of favor. That takes your lowest moment and uses it as a launching pad for the greatest season of your life. That's what God does. Remember the story of Lazarus? Jesus could have shown up when Lazarus was just sick. He could have healed him before he died, but He waited on purpose. He waited until the situation looked impossible, until people gave up, until hope was buried and the grave was sealed. Then in front of the crowd, Jesus called Lazarus out of the tomb. Why? So there would be no confusion. So that everyone watching would know only God could have done that. That's how God works in your life too. He's setting the stage, not for a small fix, but for a supernatural moment. You may feel like your dream is wrapped in grave clothes, like the thing you hoped for is not all gone, but don't count God out. Don't bury what He still intends to resurrect. You're not forgotten. You're being set up for something greater than you imagined. Sometimes before the miracle, God lets you walk through a season of silence. Not because He's absent, but because He's watching your posture. Will you keep trusting when there's no sign? Will you keep walking when the path doesn't make sense? Will you keep praising even when your heart is broken? Because those are the moments that build unshakable faith. That's where you grow roots. And when the miracle comes, it won't just bless you, it'll change you. You'll look back and say, if I hadn't gone through that storm, I wouldn't know His peace. If I hadn't faced that loss, I wouldn't recognize His restoration. If I hadn't hit that low, I wouldn't appreciate this high. It was God all along. The hardship may not have been sent by God, but He'll use it. He'll flip the script. He'll rewrite the ending. And when it all comes together, the glory will belong to Him. You may be in a position right now where you don't have the right experience. You don't have the connections, and you don't know how things will work out. But none of that matters when God decides to favor you. One touch of His hand can override every limitation. One moment of divine intervention can cancel years of struggle. He doesn't need permission. He doesn't need approval. When God moves, nothing can stop Him. And when it happens, you won't have to explain it. Your life will be the evidence. The healing will be real. The open doors will be visible. The joy will return. The provision will overflow. The relationship will be restored. The opportunity will come out of nowhere, and you'll stand in awe saying, I didn't make this happen. God did.